Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Yo, yo, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hey, I'm H370X. It's your host, Ashton Forbes. Today is Malaysian Airlines Monday. Guys, I'm closing down the studio. Guys, we're closing down the studio unless the United States government admits it teleported Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 with 3 orbs. No, I don't think they're going to do that. So that was just a joke, but I am going to put an end to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday naming conventions. Probably going to try something a little bit different. Could be really similar. Not really sure yet. But I feel like we've just run the course on the Malaysian Islands Monday, Secret Science Wednesday, Free Energy Friday themes. So we might do something else there. You can consider it kind of a season ender as well. So what are we going to go through today, guys? First of all, I just wanted to thank MH370X for being here, doing this, researching this stuff. Yeah, we are going to start a cult. We're going to start a cult now. So cult is of free energy. No other energy sources are acceptable unless it's 0 point energy related. Cold fusion qualifies. It's allowed. Magnetic motors, anything that's extracting energy from the 0 point, those are allowed. Anything else that's like primitive level technology, yeah, we're not down for it. Hey, ZPE disclosure. This account is awesome, by the way. This ZPA disclosure account on on Twitter. I just love it. We're literally starting a cult though of 0 point energy, which I love, but no doomsday cults though. We're not going to destroy the planet. That's our one thing that our cult doesn't allow, okay? No destroying the planet. Our cult just believes in free energy for everybody without us destroying ourselves. Fingers crossed. As many fingers as you can get. Okay. So tonight we're going to look at details of the videos. We are going to talk about the science that led us to this point. And without further ado, we've got a lot to get through. So let's just jump right into it. First thing I want to do is talk a little bit about the science. Actually, you know what? We're going to skip ahead. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the side-by-side of the MH370 video. Because these videos are really why we're here. And I think if these videos weren't real, there wouldn't be this many people this interested in them. Like you can just tell that they're real. That's a big part about them. Here we go. Hold on. I'm switching my view. There we go. It's a little bit better. So when we watch these videos side by side here, like we can see the orb come flying in. Oh, this is the edited version that I made. Okay. Well, this is good enough to start with. So we can actually see the third orb fly in on the drone video, and it's off the screen for just a second before it gets into formation. Like you see it right there in the bottom left, and then you can see it enter the satellite video right after, and they're synced up. So this actually tells us that we're watching that orb fly past the drone, which is off screen, and that orb is slowing down and synchronizing up with the speed of the plane, like even while it's in the video, the drone video there. Pretty wild. Where is... Sorry, that's not what I wanted to show. I have another one. Let's show... And here's another part. Same comparison. But in this comparison, you can see the clouds in the background. First cloud right there. In fact, I'll just go to full screen. First cloud there in the background. You can see this big giant cloud here in the background. It's probably the one on the bottom right because we have a perspective thing here going on. And then the second cloud right there as well was definitely the cloud right there behind it. So we can even see the clouds matching in these videos. Okay. So this is what led us to this point where we're looking at these videos and we're seeing some pretty significant details in them. So we start looking into the physics. We start looking into the physics, and specifically the physics about this. We're seeing these orbs converge in the plane, and we're seeing this black, cold endothermic event. Like, what are we looking at here? Right? How would anyone even come up with this? These orbs converge, and then there's a black, cold endothermic event that happens for less than 4 frames, really 3 meaningful frames. So this is happening in like 0.2 seconds most. Okay. So we find, first thing, scalar physics. Shout out to Tom Montauk. And before that, shout out to this shirt. Man, my new shirt. Look at this. I love this shirt on stream. I'm going to give somebody a seizure or something. Okay. Now, let me pull this over to the side. Tom Montauk. Sorry, chap. My buttons aren't there. There we go. Okay. I retweeted one of his posts. He might be like the world's leading expert on scalar physics at the moment, who's still alive. So he wrote this post. I retweeted it out earlier that you guys definitely have to check out. He was looking into Amy Eskridge. He finds this guy, Glenn Robertson. Glenn Robertson wrote scientific paper with Bob Baker. So I think he mentions Bob Baker somewhere in here. Oh, no, David Maker. Sorry, David Maker. He wrote it with David Maker, not Bob Baker. And he had been looking into Eugene Plotkinov. So if you have been with us, then you know we've looked into Amy Eskridge, Eugene Plotkinov, Ning Li, like all these people that were looking into gravity research in the 90s. Quantum mechanics always comes up. Oscillations, because really frequency and oscillations is the key to interacting with this extra dimension of energy that we've got. Yeah, R.I.P. Amy. And then when he says, anyone familiar with Thomas Townsend Brown knows that very high electric fields can affect gravity. But, then he's saying, oh, well, but maybe it's explained by some other existing effects. Then there's this idea of having collectively rotating charges are potentially another way that you can interact with. Like maybe there's more than one way that we can do it. Now down here, this is what I thought was really interesting. Standeo here, interesting he brings him up because I watched a video of Standeo that I haven't played yet for you guys, where Standeo is talking about these orbs being able to like link up and they like synchronize up into these triangle formations. And it's not just 3, they could create like one of 6 as well. So they can make like a massive triangle. He says a related device here is a MAGVID, magnetic vortex hyperionization device. I heard from people close to Stefan Marinov that he built it, and it may have been posed as an Area 51 scientist on the internet to put out info about his device. It consisted of Helmholtz coils and antennas at right angles, driven in quadrature, with a DC coil at right angles to them. It was operated at 50 to 75 megahertz range, which, by the way, bends the rotating magnetic field vectors like a pinwheel, as it happens around neutron stars at the light cylinder radius. Now, not only did it create a magnetic field, but also ionized the air and surrounding materials due to associated electric fields, which drew ions and electrons into orbit around the device, creating a shell of dense charges. So basically an EVO, exotic vacuum object, that Ken Shoulders talks about. This is still Tom Montauk, by the way, guys. This is his post. Why am I bringing this up? Because this is the summation right here of what we're looking at in those videos. We figured out how to create a ball of plasma. This is a patent that claims that they've basically done that. He mentions the Philadelphia experiment here, John Hutchinson. So I looked in this MAGVID link. Was it this one? Yeah, I was reading this MAGVID link a lot. Let me switch over so you can see. This is the Stefan Marinov MAGVID. Magnetic vortex. Look at this. I might have to ask Salvatore Paez about this. I wonder if this is the kind of device, like I keep wondering, how small would a device be inside those orbs of plasma? You could have a device inside of it. It's not going to be a sphere. It doesn't need to be. The device inside is probably toroidal in nature, I would guess. So when I see this, I go, wow, like what if you just have a device and it just starts to freely suspend in the air once it starts spinning or whatever? Like you just shoot out and it spins, it collects enough electrons, now it creates a ball of plasma. Now it's just floating around there. I don't know. So I thought this was really interesting because that looks like what I would expect them to potentially look like. And it also just looks a lot like Salvatore Paez's patent. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah. Okay, so you look, I look at this one, and then I compare that to. Here, let me just switch to this. Compare that to this. This is Salvatore Paez's patent. 2018, Salvatore Paez, Navy. Look at that image right there. How do I make this bigger? Looks similar to me, chat. So I have a lot of people to ask, a lot of things to ask Salvatore Paez. So people want to know November 24th, Salvatore Paez interview. Because I'm pretty much just gonna get us disclosure. Like I believe Salvatore Paez has worked on projects, that are beyond what the public is aware of, let's say. I believe Salvatore Paez knows information that he can't share probably, but I'll know the right questions to ask, just like with the FOIAs, to like get the response that we need. And I'll press a little bit, but I'm not going to get anybody in trouble or anyone to violate national security. Can't tell us how free energy works as national security threat. But whatever, we'll get enough answers that, like, you know, there's ways where you can ask questions about the science and things like that, which will confirm the authenticity. Simple as that. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay, so this MagVid thing's pretty interesting. Now, the next thing is that Tom Montauk, this was a segue into more about Tom Montauk, actually. He, like, basically wrote the book on scalar physics. We found out last week, I think, that his real name's like Tom Manderley, and I've been calling him Tom Montauk, but he just has his website, montauk.net. And his real name's actually Tom Manderley. So he never corrected me once. It's not my fault, chat. It's not my fault. I haven't called him Tom Montauk. That's like calling me Ashton for orbs. Like, oh, bro, my name's Ashton Forbes, but whatever. I guess I'm not offended. He's probably not offended either. Okay, get over it. Okay. We'll make that up to him in a second, chat. Get ready. Scalar physics. Here we go. We're going to make it up to him. This is a video from one of his videos. Oh, come on. File not found. Okay, well, then we're going to play the Tom Bearden one first, okay? It's fine. We can play this in either order. Oh, what the hell? How come I'm not finding these? Oh, I don't know. Okay, yeah, hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm retarded. I moved them. Okay.
It says that the gravitational potential arises when there is a divergence in the magnetic vector potential, and when the electric scalar potential changes with time in a curl-free way. Let's break those down. So normally, as we discussed, the magnetic vector potential curls into a magnetic force field. But when it doesn't curl, and instead diverges or converges, that's what scalar physics says produces a gravitational potential. Divergence of the magnetic vector potential is key. Divergence is a math term meaning that there is some kind of expansion or compression in the field. In other words, the field vectors point away from or towards a common center. And that's the opposite of curl, which involves the field circulating around something rather than converging or diverging from it. As for the electric scalar potential, that can also create a gravitational potential under certain conditions. Normally, as explained,
so I just want to jump in there. The magnetic vector potential, if we can have a magnetic field where we have it scalar, it's just going in or out, a monopole, then we have gravity manipulation, is what he just said right there. Well, why is that interesting? Well, because that's what we're seeing with the orbs. Like, we're seeing magnetic monopoles, magnetic fields, all out or all in. And that's why we see them in an orb formation. Like, that's why we see this plasma in a sphere. It's not a hard sphere. It's just the nature of what's being produced there. And that's what's creating that gravitational effect. So one half of it is you can use the magnetic field to create a scalar potential. And then he says, well, we can use the electric as well.
As for the electric scalar potential, that can also create a gravitational potential under certain conditions. Normally, as explained, the electric scalar potential has a gradient that forms an electric force field. And if this electric field changes over time, then according to Maxwell's famous equations, you get a curling magnetic vector potential that produces a magnetic field. But what if the curl of the magnetic vector potential is suppressed or canceled out? What if you set things up so that the magnetic vector potential does not produce a magnetic field? A simple example of that, for anyone curious, would be a spherical capacitor with an oscillating electric field. Then, what you get instead is a changing gravitational potential. So instead of a transverse electromagnetic wave, you would get what's called a longitudinal electrogravitational wave. Transverse means that the field wiggles side to side as it travels, which is what electromagnetism normally does. And longitudinal means that it compresses and expands in the direction of travel, which is what these artificial gravity waves do. I'm talking about things like ball lightning and exotic vacuum objects. the Biefeld-Brown effect, Tesla's wireless energy systems, longitudinal forces and railguns, the exploding wire phenomenon, Stefan Marinov's magnetic ionization device, low...
He said it. Stefan Marinov's ionization device.
Energy nuclear reactions, plasma-based free energy systems. So with that one postulate that the magnetic vector potential and the electric scalar potential can each produce a gravitational potential under the right conditions, you open the door to Star Trek level technology. The postulate...
You want to hear that last part again, chat? Because here's the thing, like, wow, Tom Montauk is on it, man. He's like 100% right. Like, this video should have like 10 million views. His video of scalar physics on here. It's called like Scalar Physics Introduction. If you just Google it, you can find it. Sorry, I don't have a link. Everybody always asks for a link. Just Google it, you guys. Jesus. The longitudinal here, like we're sending a ripple through the ether. That's why you don't detect it within our three-dimensional space. I'm using electromagnetic detection. That's what he's saying right here.
Waves do. I'm talking about things like ball lightning and exotic vacuum objects, the Biefeld-Brown effect, Tesla's wireless energy systems, longitudinal forces and railguns, the exploding wire phenomenon, Stefan Marinov's magnetic ionization device, low-energy nuclear reactions, plasma-based free energy systems. So with that one postulate that the magnetic vector potential and the electric scalar potential can each produce a gravitational potential under the right conditions, you open the door to Star Trek level technology.
There you have it. So why am I interested in scalar? That's why. So again, a scalar isn't as complicated as you think. If we cancel out our electromagnetic waves, the Aharonov-Bohm effect, there's still a potential left over. That potential is possibly the secret to unlocking gravity. It's still not that simple. Potentially, we also need a certain amount of energy requirement or to manipulate negative energy or specific frequencies as well. But it's one aspect to understanding how we can manipulate gravity. So scalar potential is dope. Let's go to our hero, Tom
Bearden, a retired U.S. Army lieutenant colonel, is among a small group of scientists and engineers who believe that the Soviets have perfected Tesla's ideas and are developing radio frequency weapons on a scale unimagined in this country.
So real quick, this is CNN in 1985.
There have been a series of tests of these kinds of weapons, apparently, for a number of years. For example, airliners from Iran, before the fall of the Shah, saw deep within the Soviet Union very large, glowing spherical balls of light, which started out small and then expanded to very large size, which are apparently these kinds of weapons for use in an anti-ballistic missile defense role.
Bearden believes that these satellite photographs are of mysterious non-nuclear explosions near an uninhabited island in the East Siberian Sea, and that they are discharges from an RF weapon that uses intersecting energy beams called scalars.
In doing so, you can create, for example, either an electromagnetic explosion at a distance, or you can create an electromagnetic implosion at a distance, the extraction of energy from a distant point. This would look like a cold explosion, so to speak. And I believe the thing on April the 9th, 1984, off the coast of Japan that involved several 747 jet airliners, I believe that incident was a test of a cold explosion weapons. At least it met all the characteristics.
Pilot Doug Happ was in one of the 5 airline crews that saw an incredibly large...
Honestly, that's good enough. That last part with that other guy, I probably could have edited it out. Cold explosion at a distance. Tom Bearden talking about it in 1985, that we had this figured out. Humanity did. So when I look at it, guys, like, it feels like we've just kind of solved this whole UFO thing. You know, like, we've got this whole UFO thing going on. A lot of it's just balls of light people are seeing in the sky. We're seeing a lot of triangle formations. And now we're hearing people that we're talking about these phenomenon, these exact phenomena, but not just these phenomena, but like stuff that we've developed, humanity's developed in the 80s. In the 80s, Russia could have had it in the 80s. United States could add in the 80s. The problem is we're not privy to what these black projects have and what they're distributing to the military under like classified designations. We just don't know. Especially when it's under FOIA protection by being in third-party defense contractor hands. Like, I actually think that a big part of this is that we are waking up to how far beyond the public the defense contractors have gotten. Because they don't care about what's possible or what's not. They have a shitload of money, and if you can make it work, that's a huge advantage to them. And so they've figured out zero-point energy, and they figured out how to manipulate zero-point energy. Even right now as we speak, they're probably trying to figure out ways to manipulate even better and better. And they're just getting decades ahead of where the rest of the public is at. So let's go to phase conjugation. We might skip the phase conjugation. Actually, I think it's pretty short. So then the question is, okay, well, how do you manipulate a scalar potential? Like, you have to understand this idea of phase conjugation, getting your waves in sync to either amplify or whatever effect you're trying to achieve, cancel out, whatever you want. It turns out that frequency and stuff like that is actually really important when it comes to trying to manipulate the interaction of gravity and energy. Lulu, chill. She's freaking me out. I think this one has no sound. So if you're interested, check out 4-wave mixing. You see that used a lot. That was just referenced on the screen right there. 4-wave mixing. And you can see that if you put a shot glass over this laser, it's blocked. Blocks the image. You can see our image guy there is upside down. You put this crystal on it. So technically you could say this is a metamaterial, but it's not really. But you can use like a phase conjugate crystal, or there's other ones with different properties as well. You're messing with the refractive index, I believe. And so you use the phase conjugate, phase conjugate mirror and a refracting focusing beam. And you can see it flips over the image here. The image gets corrected, flipped upside down. Now, with this crystal, he's putting the shot glass, he or she is putting the shot glass over the laser. And watch this. This is phase conjugation. Get ready. What is it doing right now? Nothing. What? What? Just decide to start appearing after like 30 seconds? Yep. Yeah, but just the light, like, I don't know, bounced off the shot glass enough and somehow like tunneled through, and now there you go. You get the full image. Phase conjugation. It's, yeah, I'd say holograms is the best answer. I don't have a really good answer for you. Magic? Magic is probably one word. I guess the thing that's interesting about it is that it's quantum effects on the macroscopic scale. When we start seeing these quantum effects in the quantum world, magic is possible. We can teleport something from one location to the next. So when we start seeing these effects on the macroscopic scale, it really should be a question of how do we scale that effect up to see that in the macroscopic. And we see it. We see it in superfluids. Helium-3 doesn't freeze. Cooled to absolute zero. It's not frozen. We see it in hydrogen. Hydrogen atom at rest still has energy. We see it in superconductivity, which is getting more and more common. Currents that don't stop. If you have superconducting wires, those currents just flow. Unless the energy is being drained, they're just flowing without resistance. Okay, and then 0-point energy explained. So this is the last one. This led us to 0-point energy. And in 0-point energy, we found really the secret to the MH370 videos. We saw cold fusion. Something that we should have caught much sooner. We saw cold fusion. We see these cold fusion orbs here. we can see that heat signature. And the heat signature of these orbs, part of the orb is on par with the background. The rest of the orb is on par with maybe the skin of the plane. So these orbs are not the temperatures of the sun. It's not red hot. This was the big rub. This was what the letter to Ashton Forbes wanted me to know. They wanted me to know. If you look at that ball of plasma right there. Look at that thing. They wanted me to know that we have these balls of plasma, and they are cold fusion, not hot fusion. Look at, you don't see, it's not red like the belly of the engine here. And this is the secret to all of it. Like, it's not just as simple as teleporting an airliner. It's also that we have these balls that are manipulating 0-point energy. They can create, imagine their own little black holes in there, basically. Or whatever their little device is doing there is creating these energy fields around them that manipulate anti-gravity or produce anti-gravity, gravity manipulation. This is free energy for the world. This is free energy. That's free energy. And once you realize that's free energy, which that's looking behind the curtain. Everybody wants you looking at Yahtzee. Everybody wants you paying attention to aliens. They want you to look at this and freak out and think it's aliens. That's their cover. No, it's not the United States government teleporting this plane away. It's aliens. It's aliens. No, it's not aliens. So I'm going to let my buddy, your friend Somni, explain that.
Out, it wasn't aliens that zapped the plane. It was US military. This looks obvious in hindsight, right? Because people would have had some fear because they're thinking, oh crap, aliens are zapping us out of existence. I thought, nah, I don't think they'd do that. I mean, they could. I just don't think they'd do that though.
I agree. I don't think they do that either. And so that's led us also now to look back. And this is the Bob Lazar.
Well, gravity is a
video.
wave. There are many different theories about wave included. It's been theorized that gravity is also particles, gravitons, which is also incorrect. But gravity is a wave. The basic wave, they can actually tap off of an element. Why that is, I'm not exactly sure.
So he was a little young and he didn't know what he was walking into here. So he pulled a Terrence Howard, basically, is what happened to Bob Lazar, is what it seems like. Actually, I'm pretty confident in this assessment. And a graviton is just a particle representation of a wave, the same way where electron is a particle representation of the component of the atom and its makeup. So we use the particle representations in order to make the equations easier for us to understand. And everything he says in this interview is under the microscope. So if he says anything wrong here, they're getting him. So when he says stuff too, like gravity generators, what does he mean? Well, he might not even know. He might not even know what he means. But what we think he probably means now is that they were using a scalar type weapon, scalar gravity manipulation type device, which is canceling out the RF radio frequency of electromagnetic fields, but transmitting a longitudinal beam through the ether that you can produce at a distance. That distance can be short, but you can produce that.
And so you can produce your own gravity. What does that mean? What does that allow you to do?
Well, that allows you to do virtually anything. Gravity distorts time and space. By doing that, now you're into a different mode of travel, where instead of traveling in a linear method going from point A to B, Now you can distort time and space to where you essentially bring the mountain to Mohammed. You almost bring your destination to you without moving. And since you're distorting time, all this takes place in between moments of time. It's such a far-fetched concept. When you are distorting time, there's no longer a normal reference of time. And that's what producing your own gravity does.
So if you have no mass and no energy, then there's no time. Think about that. There's no mass and there's no energy if there's no time. This is why I've been kind of on board with Roy D. Herbert's theory of time dilation. Because, yeah, there is no time if there's no energy or matter. There's no gravity either. They're all linked together. Gravity, space-time is linked together, and we can manipulate gravity. Now, just because we haven't detected a graviton, that is true. It means it's not a fundamental force. Gravity is not a fundamental force. Gravity is not a fundamental force, but that doesn't mean we don't have purpose for the term graviton. Because if we can produce a gravity manipulation effect, we would want to measure it in gravitons, even if gravity is an induced effect and not a fundamental force itself.
You can go forward or backward in time? Is that what you're saying?
No, not essentially. It'd be easier.
The fact that he says no right there in the 90s is huge. Do you know how many people understood time dilation in the 90s, 30 years ago? Like nobody. And he gets asked, can you go back in time? Now, if he was a huckster, he would say, yeah, we can go back in time. We can change the past. But no, he doesn't. He goes, no, not really. So really, and he didn't even have the right term for it, but like you're changing the dial. When you're manipulating gravity, you're changing the dial of your speed of time.
With a model, on the bottom side of the disk are the 3 gravity generators. When they want to travel to a distant point, the disk turns on its side. The 3 gravity generators produce a gravitational beam. What they do is they converge the 3 gravity generators onto a point and use that as a focal point. Then they essentially bring them up to power and pull that point towards the disk. The disk itself will attach onto that point and snap back as they release space back to that point. Now, all this happens in the distortion of time, so time is not incrementing, so the speed is essentially infinite.
We'll get into the disks in a moment, but the first time you saw the antimatter reactor.
I mean, that's George Knapp, so this is what, 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
In operation or demonstration. You had a couple of demonstrations. Tell me about that.
The first time I saw it in operation, they just put, a friend I worked with, Barry, put the fuel in the reactor, put the lid on, as was shown there. Immediately a gravitational field developed, and he said, feel it. And it felt like you bring 2 like poles of a magnet together, except you can do that with your hand, and it was...
That part right there is really interesting. The part about it felt like pulling 2 poles of a magnet together. Like a repulsive effect. For some reason, that part seemed really genuine to me. Because when we see the orbs converge, it actually is like trying to jam magnets together. Same pole magnets together. And we see this same concept of the repulsive Coulomb force. We're trying to jam 2 magnets together against the Casimir effect where they're getting pulled in together. And that's analogous to the idea of gravity and anti-gravity. And this is where I think standard physics gets it wrong, where this idea they think there is no idea of anti-gravity. It's just, counter gravity, counter to the force of gravity. That's why it's really gravity manipulation.
Fascinating, because that's impossible, except, on something with great mass. And obviously this is just and it was a repulsion field. In fact, we kind of fooled around with it for a little while. We threw golf balls off it, and it was just a really unique thing.
And they had some other sort of demonstrations to show you that this is pretty wild stuff, right?
Yeah, they did. They were able to channel the field off in a demonstration booth. They created an intense gravitational area, and you began to see a small little black disk form, and that was the bending of the light.
just like a black hole floating around.
A black hole is a bad analogy, but yeah, essentially.
And time, they gave you some kind of demonstration about time involving a candle. Explain how that worked.
Yeah, they took a candle and lit it and put it in the distorted gravitational field, which distorts time, and the candle just stood there. It didn't melt or burn. It was, it was really unbelievable.
It seems like he got an orientation. Like, yeah, that just seems like a full orientation that he was given. And it actually makes sense because what I've learned is they take engineers. They don't care about being a PhD physicist. That's not how the defense contractors work. And they want people that are thinking outside of the box. Like, basically, it's like if you have a bunch of cattle and you want to find the prize cattle, the ones that can like see through the illusion that they're stuck on the slaughterhouse. Like, those are the cattle you want to pick out. And those cattle are going to be the ones that are going to, push they're gonna be your main control cattle. Let's just say. The defense contractors picked that out, but they also have to figure out, like, hey, do you see the physics the right way? And like, do you understand that like these what you're looking at here is real? Because people are gonna freak out. A number of people just completely freak out. They maybe think that there's like a magic trick being played on them. Like, you guys got to not underestimate people's like ability to just like, if they see something that breaks their reality, that just must be a magic trick. Okay, I'm done. I'm not coming back. Stuff like that. I'm sure it happens. So and I don't back people 100%, but I think that Bob Lazar's claims in general are probably true. I mean, I think this always seems like he's telling the truth from his perspective. But does that mean that aliens are visiting us? Not necessarily. As far as I know, he's never claimed to have seen an alien. Chat, fact check me on that. Has Bob Lazar ever claimed to see an alien? I don't think so. Yeah, Somni, I've got another clip for you from Somni, guys. We're going to let Somni explain the next video. This guy, I don't know. He cracks me up. He gets me, man. He gets me. There you go.
So this is the plane, and if you look closely, what ends up happening is there are 3 orbs around the plane. We're like, oh crap, UFOs, UFOs, UFOs. But then what ends up happening is, as we go on, is it zaps out of existence. Right here. Watch. Wheel, wheel. Pop. And look at the camera. Look at the camera. I was like, hello? Hello? Hello, this is real life. You're not meant to kind of like zap out of existence. We haven't invented the science yet for it.
Hey, man, this is real life. You're not meant to zap out of existence. We haven't invented the science for it. You get it? That guy cracks me up. So yeah, I missed his video, but check out your friend Somni's video from 2 days ago, guys, if you want the whole thing. My guy. His insights are great. Okay. So he just showed you the video. Did I interview Salvatore Paez again? No, not yet. I started a list of questions and things to go through. That will be November 24th. November 24th. Got like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You got a month. Somebody might have a backdoor way for me to get in touch with Bob Lazar. I want to see what would I ask Bob Lazar? I want to see what he thinks about probably the MH370 video that I clipped him in, but also scalar physics in general.
Bottom side of the disk are the 3 gravity generators. When they want to travel to a distant point, the disk turns on its side. The 3 gravity generators produce a gravitational beam. What they do is they converge the 3 gravity generators onto a point and use that as a focal point. then they essentially bring them up to power and pull that point towards the disk. The disk itself will attach onto that point and snap back as they release space back to that point. Now, all this happens in the distortion of time, so time is not incrementing, so the speed is essentially infinite.
I mean, that's Bob Lazar explaining the MH370 videos in the 90s, either before Miguel Alcubierre even came up with the warp drive solution or right after. So I repeat, that's him explaining warp drive and wormholes, Bob Lazar, before Alcubierre even had come up with the solution or right after. That's pretty weird, especially because we're seeing it now in some leaked military videos of a plane that's been disappeared for 10 years, okay? So, yeah, I would want to ask him about that. Now, if these are VFX, well...
If these are effects, they're pretty darn good.
Okay, I'm going to play the full video of it.
If these are effects, they're pretty darn good.
Okay, yeah, those are VFX, chat. They're pretty darn good. Okay, let's take a look at some of the VFX videos and show why the MH370 videos are not actually VFX. Sorry, I said that in a stupid way. So I posted a few additional things. Like, more stuff kind of gets found out. Some of these details have already been out there and known about for a long time. But right off the bat, the dispersion. So the fact that we can see here how quickly these trails, regardless of if you think they're contrails or smoke, or there's some off chance they could be exhaust or fuel being sent out as well, you can see it disperse. This is just seconds. This is probably 2 seconds after from the left to the right. It's not as obvious when you change the color here, which they've done in the last one, but in the top ones, it's very apparent. For some reason, I can't like zoom in. Nope, can't zoom in. Okay, there we go. So right there, that should be a pretty big red flag. Why? Because somebody also sent me these messages I'm going to show you as well. I don't know who this person is. Don't dox this person. Just a random person on the internet, guys. Okay. How do I zoom out? Okay. Somebody basically said, never seen a project file where I can go back in and check the editing claims. As a video editor, I wouldn't believe it until I see the project files. I edit videos all the time. I save frequently, even for short few second meme clips. For each video file I export in VSDC, I have at least one .v project file responsibly stored on 2 different drives. So any so-called video editor who would produce these hoax videos should have the project files. If they don't, because they whoopsie lost the drive, better disclose that type of detrimental behavior to any future employers. If Buddy can whoopsie lost hard drives with project files, I never want to hire that guy. His career might as well be lit on fire and dropped in a landfill for that kind of oversight. What if that were a work drive? Based on the evidence available, that person loses hard drives with important data on them, blah, 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 okay? And then somebody just replies, I'm with this guy, 30 years of graphic experience. The 2 videos match up perfectly. That's the dagger. Yeah. The 2 videos match up perfectly. Hello, Good Morning UFO. Everybody follow Good Morning UFO. She's a fun lady, likes to dig into UFO stuff. Check her stuff out. There she is, chat. So when you talk to real VFX experts, and one thing I want to bring up here as well is that when these videos regained popularity, August of 2023, several people tried to recreate the videos right there. And most of them spent like a day trying to do it, and they just gave up because they realized it was extremely difficult to try to recreate these videos. And that's what they said. Recreate even one of them, let alone both of them in perfect sync. So most people had given up. That's when the debunkers changed their course and they started trying to attack the Zap and claimed that it was an ink blot. Then they claimed that it was a supernova. Then they claimed they magically found some VFX on the internet that goes back to the 90s. Like it was jumping around. Is this the same person? Same person. I mostly work at pixel level, but bit stream and color channel stuff. I was actually skeptical when the videos first emerged because the post-processing stereoscopic effect, is this really going to be all, hold on, effect was obvious and done after the actual videos was made. So I was sort of the mentality of edit it once, edit it always. However, once it became known the stereoscopic effect was from the old YouTube 3D BS, that cleared it up for me. I remembered the YouTube 3D stuff. After that, every intelligent person I showed the videos to were instantly convinced. And trying to convince these high IQ people that the videos were a hoax was significantly harder than letting them to believe that they were real. Falsifying the amount of details that are good enough to be real versus what would a person's knowledge base need to look like to get that stuff right on purpose? Could this actually be accidental? It's too compelling as it lies to accept true or false until I see the project files or we find the plane or any bodies. At this point, I'm waiting for a development in one of those two pathways. There's one specific experiment that I'm waiting for. I haven't seen anybody properly use AI to check the noise in the alleged infrared drone video. If that noise is natural versus generated or applied, it should be very easy to tell, but no one has ever done that type of test to the IR video, as far as I know. Chat. So first of all, yes, there's just way too much corroborating data to shows the videos to be real for them to possibly be fake. It's just way too much. Way too much. And then the logical argument is, well, those debunk attempts, it's not that they are completely without merit. Some of the arguments have a little bit of merit to them, but not a lot. Is that they're overstating the amount of merit. They often overstate that. I hear people all the time claim that the VFX is a pixel per pixel match. And then you say, how many pixels match then? And then they say, well, it doesn't matter. And you're like, okay, well, it's not a pixel for pixel match then, is it? Arguments like that, where it's like you have an argument that they're similar. It's obvious that somebody reverse image searched the videos to find an effect that was similar and then claim that it was a match. Like that's, to me, what happened. It's not that complicated. Someone just used reverse image search. They found a similar effect. They claimed that it was a match and that was what was used. That's all there is to that one. The cloud images is a little bit harder to explain, which requires somebody, either Jonas DeRoe or somebody planting those images onto somebody's hard drive, or the whole thing was a fabrication and the people were in on it. The corridor crew is in on it. The website owner, the debunkers. It's also possible they all seem to know each other personally as well. Mick West admitted he knew the website owner. So I don't know. Those are your answers. Okay. Now let's get back to the beef of the videos. So I just wanted to show these two real quick. We have dispersion on the plane. Oops. Not only we have accurate fluid dynamics in more than one video, though. We also have the second video that shows accurate fluid dynamics, where you can actually see the orb going through right there. You can see the orb going through the smoke trail behind the plane. Yeah, there is a difference between how the videos are displayed, but they're two different assets as well. So a lot of people try to say, oh, why is it black in one? Well, they're not both thermal videos. They can be IR, but not necessarily thermal. So we have the smoke dispersing in a different set of screenshots, and now we can see that the orbs are passing through the smoke, which is important because it tells us the orbs are a physical object. The orbs were not added in afterwards. These orbs are a physical object. The smoke is physical object behind the plane, and at one point, one of the orbs goes through it. Pretty huge. Oh, this was the next thing. Okay. Next, we also have moving clouds. A lot of people would say, oh, well, the clouds, they're not moving. Anybody did any forensic analysis, any at all, basic forensic analysis, just looking at frame by frame, would notice the clouds are not just moving, they're actually evolving. And this is only in like a 5-second window. So these clouds are 100% they're moving. They're moving and evolving. Here's it on big up. You can see it jiggling. You can see it jiggling. This is not just movement. This is evolvement of the clouds in a 3-dimensional environment. Why is that important? Because that shows us there's no 2D cloud pictures that were used to make this. So this right here alone rules out 2-dimensional cloud pictures, which is a tough pill for the debunkers to swallow, because then they have to admit, oh, maybe those cloud pictures weren't used to create the videos. Maybe the imagery in the videos was put on the internet in an existing set of cloud photos. And the evidence actually corroborates that. The images in question that were supposedly used in this video are only on the internet in 2016 on the Internet Archive. Even though other images are still on the archive in 2012, not these images somehow were miraculously not in there. They weren't in any torrents that we found either. So we've got clouds moving, and we can rule out 2-dimensional cloud pictures being used to create these videos. Okay, next video. The hole in the cloud. I don't know if I have a good one to show this, but we're going to try. So here's the full high-quality satellite video. Not the YouTube 3D or whatever. It's unknown whether or not the videos were stereoscopic, but at this point, I'm leaning that they were not originally. How can an object that warps space disperse the smoke? Well, it still can, because it's still a physical object. This is still a physical object. They're creating a field. I think the answer to your question is, do the orbs show up on the other side? And I'd say the answer is yes. So it's crazy when you watch the drone video that you can actually tell that this orb is on the other side of the plane. The perspective is tricking us here, but we can tell because, at least I'm pretty sure I've got this right. It's hard with the mirroring and the what have you, but you can actually see this orb very clearly in the drone when it's synced up. Honestly, the synced up videos is the full death blow. The videos are in perfect sync. You watch the orbs and you can just tell they're in sync, which is just, it's crazy, because you're like, you can tell you're looking at something real. And this is like, this is a dance. People pay to watch drone videos do this. The orbs themselves are not a wormhole, but they're producing one. And they're using a similar effect. So right where the plane is right here, like right below this, a little hole is going to open up in that cloud right below where the plane's at. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show this. Yeah. I don't know if I have the cloud hole. Okay, this one was kind of weak anyway. I don't know. The reason why I think this is interesting is that so a lot of people judge, like when you're looking at this zap here, why is it not cold in this video? Well, we're looking at a completely different sensor right here. This might just be used to track objects. So it still could be infrared, could be synthetic aperture radar, but some other mechanism of producing an environment that doesn't necessarily require to have a thermal gradient on it. Now, since this is cold, what we see here, this could actually be like ice shooting off this area here. Now, it's not necessarily like a sheet of ice. There's not enough water to make it all ice, but there could be particles of ice that are shooting off. And that could have flown through and created the hole in the cloud if you looked very carefully there. Pretty interesting. FLIR, it's FLIR though. Forward-looking infrared. Okay. Next thing is the hole in the belly of the plane. So where's my fire in the belly of the plane? Okay. So the fire in the belly of the plane right after it zooms in here is the next one. Because it's actually morphing accurately. This was VFX here. Like you don't see any fire over here in the belly. You don't see any hot smoke coming out of the plane. Now you do. You can see every time I pause it, it's a different shape. If this is VFX, there would not be every pixel unique, like every frame unique like this. See this? There would have been real matching frames like the debunkers claim that's not true. They would have found actually matching frames where the fire signature matches. Yeah. So to me, that's one of the, like, you can look through yourself frame by frame. You can tell that this heat signature in the belly morphs, which tells us that it's smoke pouring out. It's not the engine, right? Where you see this permanent stuck heat signature with the engine. Okay, the next one is the orbs trail in front of it. And it's important to point this out because some people, this may be redundant, but for other people that are still new to this, it's like if you're waking up, if you're having ontological shock about this, look at how many different details there are that I can't explain any of these details. Why do the orbs have a dark, cold signature in front of them? That's cold. Why do they have dark, cold lines in front of them? To me, this is a detail that nobody could have ever thought of, even in 2024, let alone in 2014. I've never read anything that's like, we're going to use a negative energy laser to make a path for our orbs. And that's what we're looking at. Some type of device inside that's creating a forward path for these orbs. And I'm going to show the other version as well real quick. I think this one's good. Yeah, this one shows it real clearly. I mean, look at this. This is crazy shit. So you see that they're creating the lines in front of them, and it also just seems to disperse behind them very quickly, but we can't tell. They're creating their own geodesic path there. Right there. I mean, you can see it clear as day. I can't imagine anyone coming up with that. It's one of those things that's so crazy it has to be real. Like nobody can look. You can see the lines right there. Nobody could come up with that. I'm also not sure they could render both these environments side by side. So the next one. I'm not sure they could render both these environments side by side like this. Let me go. I'm just not sure, like, using to even create a 3D render environment, like, look at the orbs. They're just perfectly in sync. There's the third orb coming in, like, especially right here where you see that. You can tell that it's in sync just looking at it. How in the hell? Look at the spinning around the plane like that. How would you even do this? Even in 3D render environment? Can anyone even do this in a 3D render environment? Even now with today's tools? So that you have two videos with two different perspectives with perfectly spinning orbs around them that are also spinning around the plane. Like, to me, it seems impossible. Seems really, really, really difficult. Even for today's standard, this seems hard. Okay, so I'm going to show it one more time. That's the third orb flying in. And if you look very closely, you can actually see that third orb. Like I'll show right here. Like we see the third orb. I'm going to point it out when it comes on the screen. Right there. The third orb just flew by. Now, if you look in the top left, you're going to see that third orb come flying in right past the drone. And now it's in formation, like immediately right after. We can actually like figure out the position of the drone based on that. And I'll show that again in the follow-up video here. Crazy. The orbs can come from pretty much any apparatus that can shoot something. That's the beauty of it. Okay, next video. So man, the details are just adding up here, chat. Okay, so here's the one I showed earlier of them in sync. So you see right in the beginning of this, you can see this orb come right there. It's in the bottom left corner right there. It's flying through the screen, and then look at the top left, and you can see the orb immediately come flying in as well. Like it's literally going right past the drone's camera, and then immediately orients in with the plane. That is just, to me, that's probably the craziest detail, because that says we got a real 3-dimensional environment here. Goes from one video into the next where you can figure out basically exactly where the drone is positioned, right cropped off this screen. Wild. Okay. Another detail is these orbs reorienting themselves. So watch the orb heat signature very closely. Watch it disappear. See how it disappears right there? Oops. The heat signature disappears. The orbs are reorienting right here. There's no problem with the camera right here. The orbs are spinning around on their axis and they're reorienting because they're getting ready to converge on this plane. And then they converge. And what we find when we read these scientific papers is that we are trying to produce a Casimir shell, a situation where we have the Casimir effect is offsetting the Coulomb repulsion. The Casimir attraction, negative energy pressure, is offsetting the Coulomb repulsion. I would argue that more and more likely it's looking like the Casimir effect is a form of reverse gravity. Or reverse, if you look at electromagnetism as related to gravity, then we can manipulate one, we can manipulate the other. Yeah, how you even think to make this, where basically nobody understood this concept of counteracting the Coulomb repulsion with the Casimir attraction. People think that it takes too much energy to produce your Casimir attraction, but obviously they figured that out. It seems like the answer as well should be that, using high voltage impulses, just manipulating the way that we utilize electricity. That's 4 frames. I don't know why people don't point out that the VFX doesn't even have the same number of frames. The first thing, if you ever get an argument with the debunkers about VFX, just ask them, like, start with the basic details. Like, how long is the VFX that they claim matches? How many frames does it have? What's the resolution of it? It doesn't. None of these things match the video. None of these things actually match. Just like basics. Okay. Okay, actually, that was most of the things I wanted to get through here. So, let me see if I have the side by side. Weird. Image 370 sync. Oh, here it is. So here's the full side-by-side again. The camera operator as well, like manually tracking the plane. It's using continuous zoom as well, meaning it's not just flipping between the two modes. Actually, it's like a continuous zoom. Struggling to keep the plane in view here. I mean, looking at it, I mean, you can just tell that they are in sync, even though it's two completely different perspectives. The drone has it in view, doesn't. Now it does a pretty good job right there. And then they know what's about to happen. To me, that's the biggest thing. They know what's about to happen. This flash occurs, we found out. This flash is physically accurate as well. When it lights up, it's releasing real photons. The dynamic Casimir effect right here. So the dynamic Casimir effect and the Schwinger limit are causing space-time to become nonlinear. Real photons are being pulled from the ether. This is nighttime, and we're seeing this flash of light. Okay. Let me get a Discord invite link. The Hodge Twins podcast should be coming out. I'm being a physicist, guys. I saw how many people were triggered by my physicist Twitter post, so we're gonna go double down on that. Gonna become one of the best physicists, the most influential physicists in the world. Chat. Could you send the video? 2 videos lined up. Yeah. Okay. There's a Discord invite. Oh, we got through everything. Let me see if there's any other videos to show you guys. We actually got through all that pretty quick. Thought it was gonna take longer. I think just honorable mention to Mike Harris.
Stay tuned in that way. We got a lot going on.
Can I give you my best silly wild-ass guess?
Okay, sure.
Somehow somebody opened up an interdimensional portal in that plane, went through it, and we don't know where it is or where it's going to come out at, but somehow it's lost for the time being. It will be found again. It fell in a hole.
Okay. All right. Well, that would...
I'm going to have to hear that again, chat.
Please do stay tuned in that way. We got a lot going on.
Can I give you my best silly wild-ass guess?
Okay, sure.
Somehow somebody opened up an interdimensional portal in that plane, went through it, and we don't know where it is or where it's going to come out at, but somehow it's lost for the time being. It will be found again. It fell in a hole.
Okay. All right. Well, that would...
So Casey Cassidy basically said afterwards that the CIA told him to shut the hell up. Told Mike Harris to shut the hell up after this. How wild is that? Nah, Mike Harris was the most accurate. This is a week after the plane disappeared. And I talked to him about it. I was on a podcast with him. Kevin Desai. Butchering his name, probably. But, I asked him, and basically he said it was an informed guess. He also had weird video about quantum teleportation and quantum mechanics on his YouTube page from like years ago. Some of these people, I don't even know, man. I don't know how they knew all this stuff. By popular demand, March 20th.
What if it was hijacking or terrorism or mechanical failure or pilot error? But what if it was something fully that we don't really understand? A lot of people have been asking about that, about black holes and on and on and on and all of these conspiracy theories. Let's look at this. Noah says, what else can you think about? Black hole, Bermuda Triangle. And then Deji says, just like the movie Lost. And of course, they're also referencing the Twilight Zone, which has a very similar plot. That's what people are saying. I know it's preposterous, but is it preposterous, you think, Mary?
Well, it is. A black hole is about, a small black hole would suck in our entire universe, so we know it's not that. Bermuda Triangle is often weather. and Lost is a TV show. So
Right.
I think
1
I
out of
always
3.
like things for which there's data, history, crunch the numbers. So for me, those aren't there, but I think it's wonderful that the whole world is trying to help with their theories, and I absolutely love the theories.
Oh boy, that's a yikes from me, chat. That's a yikes. I mean, he was closer than most people. He was closer than people that thought I was a suicidal pilot. Let's just leave it at that, okay? He was closer than people that thought I was a suicidal pilot. Hopefully I didn't. If I missed any donations, by the way, I'm sorry. My thing is messed up. Yeah, I can't even manipulate it. Maybe that's a message to us. Okay. I'm trying to get some Candace clips done as well. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing here. I was looking to see if there's any other last videos that we want to take a gander at. I actually have some video analysis videos here as well. But I guess the last thing is probably the Sibbers video, right? This is what we learned.
Persistent infrared surveillance.
We don't need to hear it. No AARO updates. I've never gotten an update from AARO after they ghosted me, after they found something about the plane. You know, I'll let Somni explain this video after this. But we found out the U.S. government's just scanning the whole Earth. Look at how big these scans are. We have thousands of satellites, too. So the U.S. government's just scanning the whole Earth. Candace got banned from Australia. That's funny. They're scanning the whole Earth. S-Beers, exactly. Sentinel of the Night. And the planet, we just have no idea. We're just like, oh, they don't have video satellite. Why not? Well, it's just, of course they have video satellite. Look at this thing. This thing was online in 2013, fully online. In fact, they're planning a new version, new spy satellite constellation system for like 2016 or 2017. Look at that. Look at that scan. Are you kidding me? People are like, oh, a plane can disappear. I just show them this video. Like, no, it can't. And they're like, well, but it flew in the South Indian Ocean. If you're right, it flew for like 8 hours. You're telling me they didn't have any satellites seeing this plane fly for 8 hours while we're scanning it like that? Yeah, right. I'll let your friend Somni explain my position on this.
This footage, it turns out, friends, Americana, shout out to my American baby dolls. They have satellites all over the globe, and they track everything. Every courier, every plane, every corner of the world, it's tracked. And it's video surveillance too.
Yeah, so shout out to my American baby dolls. This guy cracks me up, chat. This guy cracks me up. Wait, well, I just have to know why Candace Owens was banned for claims of anti-Semitism. Interesting. I'm surprised I haven't got banned, chat. In fact, we are going to even be more family friendly going forward. No more drinking apple juice on streams. No references to injecting marijuana. This is going to be a family friendly stream going forward, guys. So thank you guys for hanging out and watching the MH370 video series. The reason why I'm shifting it up is that I want to look at some other content, some other, just even maybe it's just as simple as like next week's streams are like a recap, you know, something a little bit different. And this will be useful as well because then Wednesday and Friday's streams, I can turn those into podcasts if I want to. And then people can just look back through those. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I would like to be producing more content like the debunk video I did. But I want people to know as well, for my hardcore followers who are still watching right now, that the Sabrine video was meant to be tongue-in-cheek. I'm doing that. I did that to Sabrine, considered almost like satire of a debunk, because even though it's true, the best humor is in the truth. Because she's always trying to debunk people and put people down. So I wanted to give her back a little bit. But I respect Sabrine, and she's going to be the one super skeptical person that we shift first, guys. I feel in my heart. Okay, MH370. 3 orbs teleported an airplane. That's why the plane's disappearing. United States government's implicated. They teleported the plane Diego Garcia. Somehow got to Diego Garcia. It might have been remote controlled. I'm not really sure. We do have teleportation capability. We have free energy capability. The world could change. There's a 4th orb. Bob Lazar somehow knew. Many other people knew as well. People ask, why have people not been speaking out? They have been speaking out. Check out my hard truths with Salvatore Paez. November 24th. We're going to do it live. We are going to get screw the UFO congressional hearing. Screw that. That's just useless shit. We're going to talk to the engineer directly. We're going to get some truth. We are going to be able to ask the right questions to get the answers that we are all seeking. Are there aliens? Are balls of plasma conscious? How long have we been teleporting people against their will? And doesn't mean that is there the end of civilization as we know it. I don't know. We'll see. Catastrophic disclosure. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a great night, guys. I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday, and we're going to close out our Secret Science Wednesday stuff then. So have a good one, everybody. Peace, MH370X. Love y'all. Laters. I want to do that's not it. That's not it. False alarm. False alarm. I want to do S Beers. Where you at, S Beers? Oh, I have so many things now. Oh, shit. How come I don't see it? Oh, here it is.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. Controls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar.